Today, I want to discuss one of the biggest obstacles to becoming productive: comparing ourselves to others. Why is it important? It's human nature to want to measure ourselves against our peers and competitors. We see someone else's success and immediately start thinking about how we stack up. But when it comes to productivity, this kind of comparison can be extremely damaging. First of all, it's important to recognize that everyone is on their own journey. We all have different goals, priorities, and challenges. Comparing ourselves to others means we are not focusing on our own progress and instead trying to fit into someone else's mold. This can lead to frustration and even burnout as we try to meet impossible standards. We start to believe that our abilities are fixed and that we are either naturally productive or not. This can hold us back from trying new things and taking risks, which are essential for personal and professional growth. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to comparison is that often we only see a small piece of the puzzle. When we see someone who seems more productive or successful, it's easy to assume that they have it all figured out. But the truth is, we usually don't know the whole story. People tend to hide the amount of effort and hard work they put into their projects. They might post about their successes on social media, but they might not share the setbacks and challenges they faced along the way. I remember feeling upset and demotivated when I compared Hints, my startup, to another company that seemed to be doing much better than us. They had a higher valuation and more clients, and we had launched around the same time. But then I found out that this was their third pivot, and they had actually started 3 years earlier than I thought. They had gone through a lot of struggles to get to where they were, and the comparison wasn't fair. Once I was at a boxing gym working on the heavy bags next to Otto Wallen, an elite heavyweight fighter who was preparing for a big fight with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury now is the champ. At first, seeing his speed and power made me feel a bit intimidated. I remember thinking something like, there is no way I'll ever be able to reach even 10% of his level of skill, no matter how much time and effort I put in. But then I just took a step back and reminded myself that he had been investing all of his time and effort into becoming an elite fighter, and I'm just doing my workout. So I refocused on my own training, I was proud of the progress I was making, and I just enjoyed the time I spent in the gym. So it's always important to remember, if you want to compare yourself, you have to compare to someone who is in your league. I also learned this lesson from the other side when I raised our first money at Hints very quickly with just an investor deck and a tiny prototype. I shared our story on social media and I realized that it might have demotivated some people who saw our success and assumed it was easy. But the truth was, we had spent 8 months with my co-founders talking to users, doing market research, and building small MVPs all over again to get to the point where we could raise funds only with 10-page deck. I didn't intend to hide this part of the story, but when you share these things, you tend to forget to mention how much you paid for them. I don't know why it happens. So the next time you compare yourself to others, try to remember that you don't know the whole story. Additionally, it's common for people to give advice or share their thoughts on productivity on social media when they're feeling pumped and energized. But the reality is that things can change quickly, and what works for someone one week might not work the next. It's important to remember that everyone has ups and downs, and it's not fair to compare ourselves to someone else's highlight reel. It's easy to get caught up in the constant stream of content and start feeling like everyone else is more productive and successful than we are. But it's important to remember that social media isn't a comprehensive representation of someone's life. People tend to share their success, but they don't always follow up with updates about their failures or setbacks. For example, you might see someone post about their amazing morning routine that includes something crazy like waking up at 5 a.m., hitting the gym, getting all their tasks done, then spending time with their family and meditating for, I don't know, like 4 hours. You might think of them as superhuman who are just much better at productivity than you are. But the truth is, most of the time people share these kinds of stories when they're just a few weeks into a new routine and haven't yet hit a roadblock. They might forget to update us on the day when they give up after the initial enthusiasm wore off. I personally used to fall into the comparison trap all the time, especially as a founder. I would compare myself to other founders and constantly feel like I was falling behind. But I eventually realized that this comparison was one of my biggest energy drains and wasn't adding any value to my life. I believe that the key to success is to just keep working, keep existing, and enjoy the process. I know a person who was an experienced marathon runner and decided to participate in a challenge where they would run 100 miles or something crazy like this. There was one unusual runner, an old grandpa who was running at a very slow pace. However, on the last mile, the grandpa managed to surpass my friend, who was exhausted and could hardly walk, and the grandpa finished ahead of my friend. He had maintained the same slow pace throughout the entire challenge. The moral of the story is that if you keep moving slowly but steadily and without looking at others, you can eventually surpass others who may be moving faster but not as consistently. Unfortunately, there is the second sad moral of the story. The person who ran ultramarathon got some serious health problems later, which could be affected by the intense workouts, but not everyone knows the story. For most people who know his story from social media, he's the guy who's better than them in running. Of course, it's important to make reality checks from time to time to see where you're at and get feedback from trusted sources. But it's crucial to surround yourself with people who are honest and will share their experience as it is, rather than trying to present a perfect image of themselves. So, what can we do to remove this comparison habit? The first step is just recognizing when we are falling into the comparison trap. Pay attention to your thoughts and try to catch yourself when you start comparing yourself to others. Instead, focus on your own goals and progress. Celebrate small wins and accomplishments. And don't be afraid to ask for help or seek guidance when you need it. Also, when you share your success story, try to give the whole picture so people know how hard it was. I hope you enjoyed this episode and see you soon. Bye.